want to start just by telling us what you're hoping to do with the campaign, what it's all about, and what inspired you to allow the girls to do this?
Absolutely. So it's part of our International Women's Day. So of course, International Women's Day is celebrated every year. Through the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, which I work for, we're launched last year a campaign which is called Ambassador for the Day. So it was already out there, and really the idea is to highlight the need for more women in empowered positions in governance and in fact across the board of decision making initiatives. So we really wanted to take part in that, and we thought that it would be great for Bermuda if young women were interested in coming forward and finding out a bit about what it is to be Deputy Governor. And I'm extremely excited about welcoming the successful candidates to Government House for the day, and to find a bit more about what's here, and to hopefully get that message over about young women reaching into powerful positions.
Absolutely. And what then could they expect to enjoy? You know, what happens in a week as Deputy Governor or a day as Deputy Governor?
Well, I've been here 6 months now, and I can tell you that no 2 days have been the same.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to describe what a day in the life of a Deputy Governor. But what we're hoping to do is give the successful candidates a bit of a flavour of what we do here. So we'll be certainly attending the Women's Day, International Women's Day celebrations down at City Hall. We'll be having lunch with some of the most prominent women, I hope, on the island, and hearing a bit about their lives also. We'll certainly be looking also, I think, at how we as women can support more vulnerable women on the island, and I think that's something that I feel very strongly about, in that we're only ever as strong as our most vulnerable communities, and on International Women's Day we'll be looking at the most vulnerable women and hoping to highlight what their support needs are, and see what is available to them and how we can help.
And you're obviously the second female Deputy Governor. Do you think being a female makes a difference in that role? Do you think it's important to have women in roles such as that?
I think it's important to have women in all roles. I don't know if it makes a difference necessarily in terms of being a Deputy Governor. I think every person will bring a different spin, be they a man or a woman, and so you bring who you are to a job. But I do think it's important for women to be present and active in all roles, and I see that in Bermuda. There are women in the most senior positions in government and business, and across the board. There's some extremely powerful women characters across Bermuda, and I think that's one of the things that's struck me since I got here.
Sure. And what do you hope then in terms of entries and submissions from our young women?
I think first and foremost is a passion for the issue, for the empowerment of women, and for giving all women a chance to be everything that they possibly can be. So something from each of the candidates about, you know, what's important to them, you know, what their dreams are, their ambitions, and you know, what they hope for, not just for themselves, but for women on the island and for women across the world.
And should they win the opportunity to come and join you, what do you hope that they'll take from it, you know, sort of looking ahead to their own futures?
Well, I hope they'll take some ideas. I hope that they'll see through the women that they meet on that day, you know, what the possibilities are, what your options might be, and maybe some tips about how to get ahead. Not from me, I hasten to add, but from lots of people who they'll meet on the day.
Sure. And you mentioned obviously about sort of supporting our vulnerable women communities, female communities. What have you seen since your time here about maybe women in Bermuda that need extra support, perhaps?
Yeah, you know, I've visited a large number now of different voluntary organisations, all of whom are working extremely hard. And I would say, first of all, that the voluntary sector on Bermuda is second to none I've ever seen. They all do some amazing work, and still more is needed, and they are the first to say it. And I think, you know, off the top of my head, the fact that there is no refuge for women who are subject to domestic violence is a lack here in Bermuda, and something that we could definitely work together to see how we could provide that. In addition, obviously, particularly women who have children, who are in those kind of situations, are in extremely difficult situations. But there's a large raft of need at that level that a lot of people are struggling very hard to accommodate, which they need help with.
In terms of International Women's Day, what's your thoughts on maybe why it's important and what it means to women in this day in 2019?
Yeah. So, you know, the fact is that despite all of the gains we've made, and we have made many gains even in my lifetime, there's been enormous steps forward in women's opportunities and equality. But nonetheless, even in the most progressive of countries, the fact is that women don't earn as much as men. The fact is that women are seriously underrepresented in positions of power in governments and in business and in every other sector. So, you know, there is still a need for all countries to be addressing those inequities. You know, the fact is that across the world, when you look at the more global picture, you know, the plight of women in many, many countries has not moved forward, and in some countries has moved back. And it's beholden on all of us to be aware of that, and to be, you know, really making representations to address that, because the role of women in many countries today is worse than it has been ever. Women are disproportionately more likely to be held in slavery. Women are more likely to be trafficked. You know, all of the modern day atrocities that are committed are more often committed against women. All of the conflict zones, and that's one of the things that in the Foreign Office have been trying to raise today. You know, the plight of women in them is rarely raised, and yet they are disproportionately affected and much less likely to have started the fight in the first place. So, you know, we shouldn't be complacent, despite all of the many benefits and many gains that many of us are enjoying today.